Welcome back to BK Nothing But Nets podcast. No Dylan today, so it's me and John going solo dolo here. The Nets cooked the Hawks, and on Saturday they looked pretty good against the Celtics, coming up just short. But yesterday they pulled off. They pick up a win, the 23rd of the season, 122 to 114. They played really well in the fourth quarter. John, I know you're not happy. Give me your thoughts on the Nets' performance yesterday.
Gary, of course I'm very happy. Can't you tell by my new wardrobe?
It's depressed. He looks like a
listen,
Columbine shooter. Yeah.
listen, this is all I have to say. Hashtag scam needs to scram. Listen, I know he had a great game yesterday. I know people like when John said he wants to be here because he got gifted $90 million. I understand all that. He had a great performance yesterday. But at the end of the day, what are we doing? This whole season, the vets have played a hell of a lot more minutes than typically you would expect from a team that wants to protect a lottery pick. But to have guys like Johnson close games and win games is one thing, but to be able to rely on young guys, have actual player development, like having a guy like Maxwell Lewis who's finally getting run, that's great to see. But relying on vets to bail out young guys is what is kind of a problem right here. You wonder, some of these games we did win this year, could we have won those if we trusted the younger guys? Those results you live with. But when you have vets carrying you and bumping up their stats, that's when you wonder, could this screw us in our potential draft odds? We'll see on May 12th. But yeah, other than that, Johnson had a good game. Maxwell Lewis had a good game. Dayron Sharp had a great game, plus
We'll get
20.
we'll get
Yeah.
to it. Get to it. We're gonna get to that in a bit. I want to address the vets, and I want to address everything. And first, you're right. Cam Johnson won this game first. Other guys played well too, but Cam Johnson was the reason why we won this game down the stretch. And he shouldn't be here. We've talked about this 5,000 times. And B, Maxwell Lewis was playing well. Reese Beekman sighting. John, why not let those guys close out the games? Like, the season is lost. We're not making the play-in. There's 14 games left. We're at 5 games out of the play-in. You can scratch that. The season's lost. Right now, I don't even put not playoff position. Put draft position to the side. Just to see what we have as a future. Why not let Reese Beekman and Maxwell Lewis close out the game and see if they can win the game without Cam Johnson?
It's a great
Why not?
question. Typically, the answer should be very obvious when you have nothing to fight for right now at the end of the season, because that is a goal, that is a strategy. You don't want to be in a playing scenario. Thank gosh we get out of that mindset. But still, when you have vets still winning games towards the end of the season when these games shouldn't really matter, it should be player development, player evaluation. It really falls on the front office's hands, but also Jordy too, because Jordy wants to win as much games as possible. And if you're available to play, he's going to want to play you. If you have more experience than some of his other guys, Jordy wants to go with the experience. But at the end of the day, as well, if we're trying to protect our lottery pick, trust these young guys. You look at Maxwell Lewis in 2 games, the kid's averaging 12 points. This kid really wants opportunity to be on this team, and I'm very happy for him. I don't know if he's going to be a long-term part of our future, but you want to see these moments to see if these diamonds in the roughs could potentially be something. Even if they're a back-end bench piece, at least they're showing you something. The vets, Johnson already got paid his money. We know where his value's at. And most likely, if you want to get out of this Johnson scenario, you trade him on draft night because he's going to be 30 years old next year, but you're relying on him to bump up stats on a bad team. And it just kind of makes you go, what is our direction right now? Are we trying to still be competitive while tanking? Like, it still feels like even though we committed to being out of the play-in, we're still in the middle somehow. The organization needs to choose a direction this summer. Are we going for the lottery next year? Are we making a big crazy move nobody's expecting? Or are we going to try to bring some more vets on board and let them carry the ship while we draft new prospects? Like, you have to commit to a direction. It can't be a middle mishmash unless you know you're going to be a very good team in a few years. With this front office, we don't know what the hell they're doing right now. And
Well, I
yesterday's
want
results keep on showing that.
to look. I don't like. There's a lot to that, right? So first, yeah, they won a game. You're not gonna literally lose every game. These guys have pride. They're professional athletes. They want to win. The guys are gonna play hard every day, hopefully, right? So you're gonna win some, even with a horrible roster. You're still gonna win some games. They're still NBA players, right? They're not going to win consistently, but why? Like, yeah, why not let the young guys play? And no one can seem to give me a good reason why Cam Johnson is cooking down the stretch of the game, hitting big shots, and Maxwell Lewis, who played great, is sitting on the bench. Like, well, okay, look, I understand Cam Johnson is better than Maxwell Lewis. Granted, I'm not arguing that, But we already know what Cam Johnson is. He's 28, 29 years old. He's been in the league 6 years. Like we know what he is. We don't know what Maxwell Lewis is. We don't know what we kind of know what Reese Beekman is, but like, yeah, you got him here for a reason, right? Let him play. Let him play. Look, if Maxwell Lewis wins you the game, it's like, well, maybe this is something we should look at for next year. We already know what Cam Johnson is. There's no bet, and this is what I said in the beginning of the season. Before the season started, Cam and DFS had to go. You could keep Bogey. You could play him a little bit. He played that role last year with Detroit. But as you get close to the deadline, just like Detroit did last year, you have to get rid of him. Right?
Exactly.
And they didn't do any of these things. Right? Well, they got rid of Dell. But Cam, he had every single opportunity to trade Cam. And I don't even know what your actual goal was. Like, what was your – I say this about my boy D'Lo, too. And you guys are going to say, I hate Cam Johnson. That's what – I say the same thing about D'Lo, who's one of my favorite Nets. Why he didn't play yesterday, fortunately, but why is D'Lo here? Why is he on the roster? It makes no sense why D'Lo is here. He has no function on this team. Not this year. There's no, why is he here?
Again, it falls on the organization being too stuck in the past and not willing to fully move forward. Like at the end of the day, being the competitive right now, I understand to a certain degree, but it feels like we're still in 2019 where we didn't have any picks and we had to put on a competitive product because what other choice was there? But now you have 31 picks. Like the game has changed, but for the way this front office runs things, feels like they're still stuck 4 years backward, and that to me is what is a scary sight. Because you want to see a progression eventually. You don't want to see this team be stuck in the middle just to be a crappy team on a daily basis. Or you build something competitive, but then you're willing to self-destruct it because a star is available. Like this organization needs to actually commit to building a legit team that could be together for more than 4 years. And I even said this to you, Gary. The Johnsons, the Dealers, and Claxton should be getting rested right now, or at least their minutes managed. They should be playing 35 to 40 minutes a night still. That they should be out of that mindset. They should be letting these guys, the young guys, get a 5, a 10, or even a 20-minute bump increase to see what they're made of, but they're not. And that's an unfortunate problem. That falls in the front office.
If the fact that one of these teams sit out there, starters in the fourth are going to win the lottery is sickening, right? Like, I mean, why not sit these? Like, I'm not saying deliberately lose. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. And you guys know I don't support that, but like, why not let these young kids play? They do it all the time in baseball. In baseball, the month of September is specifically for call-ups. You call up your minor leaguers, you let them play when you're out of contention. Why don't we do something similar here, right? Like, what is winning this game? What is it? Forget losing. Forget drafting. Developing these guys right now, seeing what you have in these guys, letting them get on the court in crucial minutes is way more important than winning a game. Winning the game is meaningless. The season's over, guys. There's 14 games left. We're 23 and 44? What is that record, John? 23 and 44? Season's over,
yes.
guys. You know what I'm saying? So letting these guys develop, letting Beekman get crunch time minutes, letting Maxwell Lewis get crunch time minutes is way more valuable than winning a game.
Yeah, and we're 23 and 45 just for records there. But I understand what Lou's alluding to now because I know the Raptors yesterday, I think they rested a few of their starters in the fourth quarter when they had a lead. Listen, the Raptors, like me and Gary said, are the smartest strategic tanking team. They knew this season they weren't going to win. They weren't going to be a top team. Maybe they would have been playing teams. Look what they got. They got Scotty Barnes. They got RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, Jacopoto. They had pieces, but their mindset, the organization, the president, the GM, and the players all knew we're not competing for much this year. So let's do this. Let's win some games here or there, but let's blow as many games as possible because we could get a second prospect star to pair with their franchise guy, Scotty Barnes. They're in a way better position now because of this. Yes, they're winning some games lately. But I even said, Gary, even with an easy schedule, they can throw some games away like they did yesterday. That is strategic on their part. And if they get a top lottery pick, it's because they played the game the right way. And for us this season, we played the game in a crazy, unorthodox manner that doesn't make any sense. But if this man Leeds was getting a top 3 pick, okay, it made sense. But if it doesn't, everything me and Gary are saying are just the facts. Worst case scenarios by doing this route. If the front office, the GM, the owner, and the coach are not committed to the same goal, there's something wrong in communication. And it should definitely be addressed because if we do the same thing next year, Gary, where the top 3 in that lottery is looking way, way better offensively, It's not going to work doing it this way. We have to commit this summer to a legit direction, whether that's trading Johnson and Claxton and getting younger pieces on this team. But there needs to be a commitment because this right now feels like it's all over the damn place, and you don't
The
want that.
problem is it's so easy to trade Cam Johnson. There were 10 teams you could have traded him to. Claxton's going to be harder, guys. It's not. The Lakers are the only team I think you can trade him to. Maybe there's another team out there that I'm not looking at. It's not going to be easy to trade Claxton. Like I'm not going to like. I killed Sean Marks for signing Claxton to that contract, not being able to trade him because of the contract. Like it's going to be difficult to trade Claxton. I'm just putting that out there. Cam Johnson, it's not difficult to trade. His contract's not that bad, and he still plays fairly well. He's just a little bit overpaid. It's not if you have a good team and you have an underpaid star, he's not a bad player to put on your team. He really isn't. Baseball, Lou, I want to address this. Baseball has young guys that might actually be on the team. Beekman not here next year. Now, I tend to agree with that statement. Beekman certainly shouldn't be here next year, but they picked him up for a reason. He's here for a reason. Someone in the organization, Sean Marks, I would imagine, thinks he's pretty good and has a chance to be here. There's only one way to find. Now, I've seen enough for Reese Beekman. I've seen enough. I don't need to see any more. I know what he is. But someone thinks he has a shot. Like he wouldn't be here if Sean Marks didn't think he at least had a shot to be a part of the team in the future. Now, I agree. I don't think Reese Beekman's going to be here. John, your thoughts on you don't think Beekman's going to, do you think Beekman has a chance to be here next year?
I said this from day one. We're in the Reese Beekman era. Like, come on. Did you see that 3-point shot? We made a 3-point shot and like fell on my chair. Oh my gosh, this kid is alive. Thank gosh. Like, it's good to see those little moments. Listen, we understand when Reese Beekman offensively in his young career, he hasn't found it yet. Defensively, he gives you the right energy. And when you're trying to protect your lottery pick, you want guys like that. Guys that give you the effort, but they're not exactly contributing to screwing over your draft odds. That's why guys like Reese Beekman, Killian Hayes make so much sense. Like when me and Gary mentioned good things about them, it's not because we think they're future cornerstones. It's because they serve a role, a mission, which is to help us construct a legit core. This right now, the Junkyard Squad, it's been fun. It's been interesting. But is it believable? Is it realistic? Is it a structured group? No, because offensively, our identity has been all over the damn place on that side of the ball. Yes, defensively, Jordy had an excellent month of February, but we need a legit core. I mean, you saw when we lost to Washington and Portland. They're bad teams right now, but they drafted younger talent that showed they are at a better stage than we are right now. So we need to really start riding the ship this summer and getting on that course because right now we're stuck in the middle, banking on a lottery pick being a top 3 or at no worse, a top 6 or a top 7. Like right now, this could have been a lot more easier if we would have done things a little more structured. Feels like this season it's been all over the place.
All right, let's get into this. Eskimo Iceman raises a fair point, which I want to address. Right, other guys play well. He goes, we had 2 starters playing. That's all. Cam Johnson sure didn't score all the points. That's true. Who made every big shot in winning time? John, who made every big shot in winning time in yesterday's game for the Nets?
Chris, when I saw a 30-footer from Cam Johnson from 3.
Yes, other guys played well. Okay. Cam Johnson, 28 points on 16 shots. He hit 4 threes, 10 for 10 from the line, countless big shots. Jalen Wilson was one guy I noted played well, and Tyrese Martin, 6. Other guys played well. Day'Ron Sharp. Other guys played well. Granted, yes, 100% other guys played well. But the reason why they won the game was because Cam Johnson made big shots down the clutch. It's unacceptable at this point of the season to have Cam Johnson carrying this team to victory. I don't even care about the win. The draft position to me is secondary to the development of these young guys who you need to find out if they can be on this team in the future. Like, I understand Maxwell Lewis isn't as good as Cam Johnson. I got it. But you got to give him crucial minutes. Let me see how he does in those crucial minutes. Let me see how he does. Let me see how Reese Beekman does. Let me see give Jalen Wilson the minutes. Give everyone else the minutes. Give Derek White. Where is Derek Whitehead? Give Derek Whitehead the minutes. Let him, if he blows it, who cares? The season's over. It doesn't matter. No, Cam Johnson wasn't the only guy that scored points. He isn't the only guy that played well. But he did play the best, and he was the biggest reason why we won.
Yeah, and the thing is this, like, when Cam Johnson had these 3 great months, that his trade value was the best it's ever been. But NBA owners were not going to throw 2 first-round draft picks that guy's way because most of his career was averaging 13 points. Like that was Mark's problem. He thought the 3 months would erase what has mostly been Johnson's career. And yes, Johnson's had some decent games since the trade deadline, but also had a lot of bad games as well. Like your only way out of
His
this
play
is
has
to trade him on
definitely,
draft day
once he
right
found
now.
out he wasn't getting traded, his play definitely declined. He played well last night, but his play, he was playing. You could tell in retrospect now he was playing this year to get traded. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, and he got gifted $90 million because Marks thought his buddy Mikal wanted to be here when the guy never wanted to be here. So Johnson got gifted that money by association, and he said, "I want to be here." But the way he's playing, it's like Johnson. It sounds like you want to win. It doesn't sound like you want kumbaya culture, good vibes, because you're telling people like me and Gary to get the hell out of here if we don't
But
like
just
what we
wait
do.
about
It's not.
that. How much
Come on.
that back? You gave Cam Johnson, who sucks, $90 million to keep Mikal Bridges happy, who sucks. Let's look how that worked out. Mikal Bridges, who sucks, became unhappy and demanded a trade. So you had to trade Bridges, but you got stuck with Cam Johnson and his $90 million contract, which you only gave to him to keep Bridges happy. God, Sean Marks is good at his job. Like, oh God, every single thing backfired on him. Cam Johnson only got that contract because he was best friends with Bridges. That was a deal that was made to keep Bridges happy. The end of his first full season with the Nets, Bridges says, "Trade me." He couldn't even make it a full year without saying, "Trade me." Right? And now you're stuck with Cam Johnson's contract, who you didn't even want. You just gave him the contract to keep Bridges happy. Like, this is how bad Sean Marks is. And $90 million, you couldn't give him a reasonable contract. You couldn't give him $15 million a year. You had to go, you had to go full retard and give him $90 million. Like, everything backfired. Mark, defend that. Mark, you know damn well Cam Johnson got that contract to keep Bridges happy, which Bridges X'd out by the end of his first season. Explain the incompetence of Marks here. You
Hey,
can't
you know
give
what?
someone $90 million to make someone else happy who's not even that good.
Hey, you know what though? To Johnson's credit, maybe he's doing something we're not doing. I mean, he did half the work, averaging 13 points, and still got 90 mil. I mean, Gary, maybe we should follow in Johnson's footsteps. If we do full work, if maybe we do half work, maybe we'll be on that level one day. Like this is the problem. He got gifted $90 million by his best buddy, who didn't want to be here, and now he's on the team. And just because he says I want to be here, yes, you got $90 million. If me and Gary got paid the money, we'd be champ Brooklyn all day. But at the end of the day, he's going to be 30 years old next year. It would be insane if the Nets keep him on another deal after this deal. Your best bet is to trade him now while his value is still semi-decent. Because if he's still on this team next year, it's like, what are we doing? Same with Claxton. You have two guys.
Hang on. I got a quick book. Mark, that's not the going rate. Herb Jones, who is infinitely better at everything on a basketball court than Cam Johnson, got 4 years for $57 million. I'll pull it up right now. Come on, that is not the going. That's why you can't trade him for what you want. The reason why you can't get 2 firsts is because his contract sucks. That's not the going rate for a player who's 29 years old and does one thing on a court. Herb Jones does a million things on a court, all of them better than Cam Johnson.
Can I just say something to Ribby? Ribby, 0-9 with Bridges as your lead defender on the Knicks squad. I think he dropped 2 points against Boston, and this guy represents New York. Stop it, Ribby. Stop the clapping. All right? And the other day, he hugged Draymond. You know what Draymond said in his ear that made Bridges go, He said, I got 4 championship rings while you got traded for 6 first-round draft picks, Mid-Cal. Woo! Listen, Ribby, stop the madness, Ribby. The 2 top defensive guys, OG and Bridges, have been anchors this year against the top team. Stop the madness.
Mid-Cal is better than everyone on this BS Nets roster. Speak facts, Gary. He's not better than Cam Thomas, right? Like he's a more complete player than Cam Thomas, but Cam Thomas was the first option here for a reason. Mikal Bridges has made no impact on the Nets for a reason, and he made no impact on the Knicks for a reason, and he made no impact here. We got rid of him, got nothing in return, and we're just as good. We have to tank this year to be as bad as we were last year. That's how much of a difference Mid-Cal makes, right? We're going to win close to the same amount of games that we won last year, and we had to go into tank mode to do it. So clearly, Mid-Cal is not the winning piece you think he is. He's made no impact on the Knicks, and he made no impact on the Nets. The Nets are just as good with him as they are without him.
That's wild. And we got gifted 6 first-round draft picks for it. That's the funny part. Like that just makes you go, wow. And that's why with Johnson, like I
What was
just
it?
want to end this twin era once and for all. Johnson and Bridges were not the guys that Marks thought he would be for us. And Johnson, yes, he had 3 good months, but he's gonna be 30 years old. This guy, every time he
I
plays well,
said
he
this,
gets
Iceman.
hurt.
Who's a better basketball player, Iceman? Herb Jones or Cam Johnson? Because Cam Johnson makes almost 50% more than Herb Jones. 50% more. So, no, that's not the market. That was the market because Sean Marks is an idiot. That's not the market for and Herb Jones actually does other things besides run 3-point line to 3-point line and get cooked on defense. Like Herb Jones is actually a good player. Right? He has the same role as Cam Johnson, except he's way better at that role. So no, that's not the market for him. Like you guys keep saying that because you want to defend Marks. What would you rather have done? I'll give you 2 options: Herb Jones for $55 million or Cam Johnson for $90 million. What's a better contract?
I would take Herb Jones, man.
Herb Jones is really good. Cam Johnson is he's a blunt
Yeah,
object. He does one thing. He stands on the wing and shoots threes.
He
It's like,
he gives you
okay.
offense, but defensively, what does he give you? He's not a 3-and-D wing. He gives you almost no defense on most nights. Yes, he gives you some assists now, gives you a little rebounding, he gives you some buckets, but Johnson is going to be 30 next year. This is his thing. Every time he plays well, he gets hurt. If he gets hurt again, whatever value Marks had in his fantasy mind about Johnson should be blown to smithereens because you're not going to get anything back from him at that point. That's why this summer, draft night, OKC Spurs, if they want Johnson, trade him to move up in the draft. That is your only out. And if he doesn't take it, if he somehow says Johnson's the leader of this team, oh boy, are we in some trouble, man. Like, come on. This guy is more boring than rice pudding, and he's supposed to be the leader of this team. Insane.
Do you let Johnson walk out the door for no compensation while you still didn't have control of your picks? Look, I would have never made that trade in the first place. I thought that trade was egregious, and then the contract was worse, and then your refusal to trade him. It's just like compounding the crime more and more and more and more and more, right? Like Kevin Durant for Bridges and Cam Johnson is an unacceptable trade. You need to get someone good in return. If I'm giving you one of the greatest players the game has ever seen, you have to give me a good player in return. You can't give me 2 role players. Like you need to give me a good player. A trade like that has never been done before. So that's 1. 2 is then giving him that contract is egregious. If it's give Cam Johnson $92 million or whatever it is, or let him walk, buy Cam, get your money somewhere else. That's 2. And then 3, once you gave him the money, if anyone was willing to absorb that contract and give you a single first-round pick, done. Here, have him. Take him. Just take him. Please take him. And he didn't do it. He messed up every single step of the way. John, am I wrong?
Seriously, you're not wrong. And the crazy thing is this: we're going to get into Claxton a little bit, but you look at Johnson and Claxton, what they have done, given the money they've been gifted, the numbers don't add up. For Johnson, for 3 months, yeah, it added up a little bit, but still, these guys are not long-term fits to your future. And if you're trying to say the draft, prioritizing that is what's important, then these 2 guys should be traded this summer so we have way more cap space flexibility and we could develop these guys while still making bigger moves like we've been talking about. But you keep these guys on the books, it's like their production is just going to get worse. Claxton on offense and Johnson on defense, and then you're stuck with them. Like, that's Marks' problem. He gives out way worse contracts than he gives out good contracts. The only good contract he gave out was to Kevin Durant before we got a hole for him. Other than that, he's giving out a
That's
lot of
obvious,
bad
right?
deals.
That's the most obvious thing in the world. Sign Kevin Durant. Like, yeah, me and you could do
Yeah.
it, John. Like,
That was the one thing he did do right.
Kevin Durant is, yeah.
Ugh.
I remember how many times Mid-Cal was the starter, and we would get down 15, then needed CT off the bench to get us back. Yep.
I remember
I
that.
don't understand what you guys thought. I don't understand what you thought he was. Like, I don't understand. Like, what Knick fans, when you got Bridges, what did you think you were getting? Like, because I can tell you what you have, and I could have told you that's what I try to tell Knick fans. He's not what you think he is. Right? Like, if Cam Johnson goes to a good team with a deep roster, is he going to play 35 minutes a game and average 20 points a game, 19 points a game? No, he's going to average 12 or 13 because that's what he is. Right? Like, I don't know. I just don't understand what Knick fans thought they were getting a borderline all-star who could shut down your best player, like the other team's best player. It's like,
You know what the
I
crazier
watched him
problem
play
is?
every game. I watched him play all 82. That's not what he is.
You know what the crazy part is? They signed OG Anunoby to $40 million a year. Look at his defense against the top teams. It's been just as worse as Bridges. So if you re-sign Bridges this summer and him and OG are still doing this next year against the top teams playing no defense, what have you guys done? You basically paying these guys the king's ransom to be average defenders when they're supposed to be your anchor defenders. That is what's going to start hitting them quicker than this Bridges stuff. OG, he's getting 40. That is going to be a Ben Simmons contract in a few years if OG can't actually deliver what he's supposed to deliver for that team. Just watch.
Here's how I would have handled this, Jamal. Gary says, it's politics behind the KD trade. Here's how I would have handled it. In January, when James Harden came to me and said, I want to be traded, you know what I would have told him? No. Hang on. Philly, here's the trade offer.
You are a man of honor, Gary.
Here's the offer. Harden for Ben Simmons and Tyrese Maxey. Yes or no? There's no negotiation. That's the trade. Do you accept? And if they say yes, great, we get Ben Simmons and Tyrese Maxey. If they say no, great, we have James Harden. Bye. End of the conversation. There's no negotiation. I have James Harden. I'm not negotiating with you. Okay? You have a guy who refuses to play and this upcoming guy that looks pretty good at that time. So that's the trade offer. You give me Maxey and Simmons, I give you Harden. End of discussion. There's no, okay, nope, okay, fine. I go back to Harden. I'd say KD's coming back in 2 weeks. Suck up your problem with Kyrie Irving, and we're going to win a championship this year. That's what I say to James Harden. And then Kyrie Irving, you want me to trade you? Nope. I'm just going to let your contract come off the books next year, and we'll discuss an extension at the end of the season. But right now, just go play. And if you don't want to play, you have a history here. It's just going to hurt your own pocket. So if you want to sit out games, it's going to hurt your bottom line. It's up to you. And then KD doesn't ask for a trade. That's how you handle that. But you have to have a backbone. Everyone coming to you say, I want to be traded, and here's where I want to be traded to. No, this is not Club Med. I don't send you on vacation where you want to go. You signed a contract to play here. You're going to play here. If you didn't want to play here, you shouldn't have signed the contract. It's not my obligation to trade you where you want to go. So when James Harden comes to you and says, I'm not going to play, you say, too bad. KD's going to be back in a week or two, whatever it was. We're going to win a championship. Kyrie comes to you and says, I'm just going to let your contract expire. If you want to sit out, you're just going to hurt yourself. You already have a reputation here sitting out. It's not going to help you. So that's up to you. If your money, if your contract comes up the book, you only play half a season anyway. Like, okay, I can replace you. Like, I understand he's a great player. He only plays half a season, and I pay him for a full one. So, okay, Kyrie, you want to walk? You can walk. Like, you're going to hurt yourself. You're only hurting yourself. And then if those two things stayed in place, if KD and Harden were here, KD doesn't ask for a trade.
Right. And the crazy thing is,
it's not complicated.
If you had a GM and an owner with backbones, you would have said, listen, KD's going to be back. We're still a championship team. Let's see this out. If we win a title, I'll see if you guys still want out, we'll deliver what you want. But if we win a championship, maybe you'll think about staying. Like, winning championships changes everything for some players. I think Kobe Bryant wanted. I think Kobe Bryant once wanted out.
Trade is not a haul. You got two marginal role players for one of the greatest players the game's ever seen. How is that a haul?
Gary, correct me if I'm wrong.
Give me another Mark, I let you respond. Mark, give me another trade that involved one of the greatest players to ever live, where the other team that traded him got no good players in return. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Kobe Bryant once run out the Lakers and then they won a championship together and that changed everything? Winning titles changed everything. Like, listen, I know James wanted out, but he was healthy. He was faking. He had his arm in a sling. Like, he was faking because he wanted out. But he should have said, James, nobody's buying the theatrics, James. KD's going to come back. You're a great player. He's a great player. Kyrie's going to be back. Everything's going to be gravy. But Marks always wants to deliver, like you said, like his Club Med, and send players who want to go. Just like you do with Bridges. This Thomas situation is something very interesting. If you can't get an agreement with the guy after a rookie contract, how can we trust you to be in charge? You send the stars where they want to go. You send Robles where they want to go. If you can't bring Thomas back on a respectable contract, what are we doing? Like, the negotiation process doesn't make any sense on this team. The communication style doesn't make any sense on his team. Like, if we would have kept things the way they were and seen it through, maybe we could have won a title. But we didn't. We gave James what he wanted, gave Kyrie what he wanted, gave KD what he wanted. What do we get for it? Yes, we have draft picks. We have a mediocre group right now with a good coach. Like, if we don't hit on this draft this summer, all the mistakes that Gary just talked about will be what comes to fruition. We don't want them to come to fruition, but you have to keep your head on a swivel. Things for Brooklyn Nets, our fortune has not always been there, even if we want it to be there. So if it works out for us this summer, great. We have something to work with. But if it doesn't, the problem why this is going on is very easy, and we're just laying out for you.
I don't understand this argument that the KD trade was fine. You got nothing in return. You got no players of value in return. I'm going to ask the question one more time. If no one can give me an answer, everyone in the chat gets an L. Give me one other trade where one of the all-time great players in basketball was traded for no good players in return. You can't say Barkley, Jeff Hornacek was an all-star. Okay, that's the closest thing you got. Jeff Hornacek was an all-star. That trade was egregious too. But it doesn't happen. If I give you a all-time great player, not an all-star, an all-time great player, you have to give me something in return. You can't give me two role players. Like, that's it. What did I get? Like, if that trade was good, why were the Nets immediately awful after they made it? Immediately, they were awful after they made it if that trade was good.
You know what's even worse? We gave away 7 picks for James Harden, all unprotected, no protections whatsoever. We gave away the Suns picks and the Mavs pick, no protections. Like, Sean Marks gives out free draft picks like they candy to other teams who benefit off of it. You should put some protections on it because, listen, it doesn't work for us in those scenarios.
And Karis LeVert, who was a borderline all-star. We got 2 role players. Karis LeVert carried the Nets in the playoffs in the bubble when no one else was playing. Jared Allen's an all-star. The KD. It's not even close. It's not even a comparison. Harden to Brooklyn. We gave up 2 borderline all-stars. In this trade, we got nothing. We got 2 guys who may or may not play on good teams. Like, guys, Cam Johnson's a dime a dozen. I'm not saying he's a horrible player. It's a dime a dozen. There's 100 guys in the league that can do what he does. And Mikal Bridges, you're seeing now what he is.
Yeah, and the thing is, John's going to be 30 years. Yes, he's doing some good things on production, but he's not a leader when it comes to being a clutch scorer. He needs help, and we don't have the pieces right now. This summer, we need a point guard, we need a center, we need a forward. And if we get any of those combinations, we have something to work with. But you want to get younger with this group. You don't want vets on this team making 20 mil that aren't producing at a high level that fit your timeline. That's all we're pointing out to you. And if the organization thinks that this works, this mishmash right now, it's not going to work. This summer, they have a chance to correct the mistakes. But if they don't correct mistakes, we're still going to be in no man's land. But if we do correct mistakes, we actually have something to work with here. But this organization needs to wake up and stop thinking that it's 2019 where we have no control. We have control finally. But the way this organization is running things feels like they don't have control, and that needs to be sorted out.
Karis LeVert was a 1-2-3 combo who was averaging 20 points a game when he got traded. Okay? That is not like Cam Johnson. That's not like Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson, he averaged 18 points on a good team, 20 points on a good team. Cam Johnson averaged 12. You want to look at LeVert's playoff stats? They're really good. It's not like Cam Johnson, who sucked in the playoffs and run 3-point line to 3-point line. Karis LeVert, at that time, for good reason, was considered an impact player. Cam Johnson was so bad, he made Jay Crowder quit basketball. That's how bad Cam Johnson was. That's the piece you're bragging about getting. Jay Crowder, a savvy veteran who's been in the league 15 years or whatever, goes, if you're going to start him, I'm going to quit. That's what I think of Cam Johnson.
You know, the crazy thing was,
it's not an acceptable trade, guys. You need to get something in return for him. Like, Golden State in the offseason was offering you Kuminga and a bunch of good players. Cam Johnson? And you're saying that's okay?
You know, the crazy thing was Jay Crowder in the finals, he was playing good defense for that team. That's why they liked Jay Crowder, because he was doing what Johnson couldn't do to play defense. Then when they wanted Johnson to take his spot, it's like, yes, Johnson offensively is okay, but defensively he's not doing what Crowder does. Crowder's like, I'm out of here. If I can't play my best position and be the one of the defense pieces on this team, what am I doing here? And that's kind of what started their downfall with Johnson. You've seen it. He's giving you some offensive points here or there, but defensively, Johnson's never been able to hold a tune on that side of the game. So we're not potentially stuck with this guy. We get 20 mil where defensive gives you nothing. But yes, he gives you some offensive things here or there. Come on, we need to wake up here. We should not be paying vets $20 million to stay on this team to lead us. We should be being a much younger core, building this the right way. Jordy's the leader. If Johnson and D'Lo are not the leaders of this team, they're not going to be leading us to a title anytime soon. So the sooner we get them out of the way is how we can start developing this team the right way.
All right. I do want to get back to the game, and then eventually I want to get to Cam Thomas. We've been sidetracked here. But at that particular time, Karis LeVert, what he done in the regular season and what he done in the postseason was considered an impact player. He was considered a building piece, a building block. He was considered a major piece, and he had done it in the playoffs. He did 2 years in a row. He was the best player on the team in the playoffs. The second year in the bubble, remember, Kyrie didn't play. The Nets had to win games to get into the play-in, and LeVert carried the team on his shoulders. So he showed you that he could do that. And then in the playoffs, yes, they got swept. He was the best player. He was dropping 20 a night, 25 a night while the Nets were getting beat. He was scoring in the playoffs, which is a very difficult thing to do. Julius Randle can't do that. All right. I want to get back to the box score here. I do want to address this again. John, I'll let you respond. But I do this every game, no matter what it looks like. And there's been games where it's been close. I think there was even a game or two where he had a positive plus minus, right? Claxton had a positive plus minus. But here's yesterday's plus minus. Claxton played 30 minutes and was a minus 12. What do you think Day'Ron Sharpe was in the other 18 minutes?
I believe it was a plus 20.
Plus 20.
Whoa!
Guys, again, this is not a one-off. I've been doing this for almost half the season now, and I think there's been one or two games where Claxton was either the same or better than Sharpe. John, I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but
I mean, before we can start there, let's look at who was the opposing starter. They didn't have Clint Capella. They had Okongwu, who I guess is the future of the center position. He was a plus 9, 21 points, 15 rebounds to Claxton's minus 12, 6 rebounds, and 7 points. And Day'Ron, plus 20, 8 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. Like, this is again wild to me. Like, Claxton, no accolades to his name, gets gifted $100 million in a season where you expect him to take some leaps offensively. He's rarely taken those. Maybe he's made 2 or 3 mid-range shots this year. I would say 5 would be a decent total right now, but that's not even decent. So, like, and again, another Mark situation backfiring on us. I mean, Claxton this season has gotten beaten by younger centers. He's gotten beaten by centers who weren't even on teams, like Bismack Biyombo. And the fact that his backup, Day'Ron, has outshined him different parts of the season in limited minutes, plays less minutes than Claxton, it just opens your mind to, like, we really might need a center in this draft. We really do. We need a real center. Claxton's problem is he identifies as a undersized power forward, but he has no offensive game. Yes, he can guard 1 through 4 against some opponents, but against the best, you just kind of see for what it is. Claxton needs a lot of help, and the problem is he needs 2 superstars in this team. We're not in a position to get 2 superstars right now. So their best bet, like you said, Gary, is hopefully this summer the Lakers really want Claxton. That might be our only out. And if we don't get that out, you're kind of stuck with him, and you kind of hope you could draft a center in this draft that could potentially be a successor to Claxton. But this just comes back to show you that these bad investments are coming back to haunt us right now.
KG and Pierce were 40 years old. They were no longer great players. We're talking about a guy who's currently a great player. And Carmelo Anthony was on an expiring deal, so and everyone knew he was signing with the Knicks, right? That was no surprise to anyone. So that the Nuggets had to trade him, and no one else was going to trade for him because everyone knew he was signing with the Knicks that offseason. So they got what they got. Carmelo, I can give you. They got traded for nothing, right? That's the one that I can give you. But Gallinari was still in that trade. Gallinari is better than anyone the Nets got in the trade. And that was a trade where the Nuggets had to trade him to the Knicks because he was going to sign with the Knicks. Everyone knew he was going to sign with the Knicks. So no one else was going to trade for him, and he was on an expiring deal. If you remember, he had to sign the extension for that trade to get made. So that's a completely different thing. But I'll grant you Carmelo Anthony. But that in and of itself is entirely different. All right. Yes, I understand that the trade netted them Jamal Murray 6 years later. 6 years later in basketball life is an eternity. Like, look where we were 6 years ago. 6 years ago was the D'Lo and Karis LeVert in 2018-2019 team. Like, that's an eternity ago. Like 6 years ago. Like, come on, guys. Okay. All right. So okay, let's do this, Mark. I don't want to spend all day on this, but let's do this. Let me see if I can find this. Hang on. Give me 1 second. John, talk about how bad Nick Claxton is real quick.
Yeah, listen, just like I said, the problem with Claxton is we thought this season the offensive game was going to take some leaps. Unfortunately, it didn't, and Claxton's season has just been such a mixed bag. When he has a good game, like a game shot winner against 76ers, he follows it up with a largely disappointing performance by getting blown up by Bismarck Biyombo. You want consistency in your big, and we understand. Yes, you're going to look and say, but you guys don't want wins this year, so Claxton should be on par for the course. To a certain degree, maybe, but we also want to see the effort. The fact that the guy got gifted $100 million, you guys show some type of growth. We thought the season him and Thomas would be the leaders of this team. It's really been Thomas that's actually fit Jordy's system, whereas with Claxton, it's like he doesn't fit his system, which is surprising considering Jordy has a defensive program in mind. But offensively, Claxton's not shown you enough. So you look at the centers in this draft, you got Common Maluak, a really solid defensive center with offensive potential. You have Derek Queen, a really solid offensive player who has potential to maybe get better as a defender. And you also have some guys in the later parts like Thomas Sauber. So, you really do need to get a center in this draft because Claxton Dayron, they're not giving you enough right now as far as being a center that can be a part of your future long term. So, we really need to get that ironed out because you don't want performances like that when you're seeing him get beat by younger competition and older competition.
They got Gallinari, Mozgov, Felton, and Chandler. And then a couple seconds, 2 firsts, one of the first in 2016 was a swap. The swap turned into Jamal Murray. I mean, okay, who would you rather have? Pete Carmelo Anthony, who's an MVP candidate, or Jamal Murray, who's never been an All-Star? Who would you rather have? I mean, it's not even worth answering. Obviously, he's a good player. Jamal Murray is a very good player. Very good player. Carmelo Anthony is one of the greatest scorers who's ever lived. You ask anyone in the NBA at that time, who's the hardest player in the league to score? The answer wasn't Kevin Durant. It wasn't even Kobe Bryant. You know who it was? Carmelo Anthony. Right? You guys are bugging. That's a good trade. Jamal Murray and a couple second-round picks and some guys who didn't impact your team to get Jamal Murray 6 years later, that's a good trade for the Nuggets. That's the blueprint. That's what you guys want to replicate. It's insane. 6 years.
Gary,
I don't even know how to respond to this. 6 years from now, we'll get a borderline All-Star who's never made an All-Star game, and I'll give you one of the greatest scorers who's ever lived. It's hard pass from me.
Can you put up Ice's comment real quick? Can you put Ice's comment real quick? Put up a good comment.
Go ahead, yeah.
Listen, Ice. Listen, Ice, he got gifted $100 million. I think we kind of agree with that with no accolades. So, yes, he got gifted, but it's you got to show us some development, some leaps. So if they didn't expect that, it's almost okay, so we really do need to get a center in this draft. And there's some very interesting centers we could get in this draft. I hope we do get one because we need one that could actually handle the best bigs in the league or be a potential cornerstone. Claxton has shown you he needs 2 superstars on his team to unlock his full potential. But with the new CBA system, getting more than 2 superstars pretty much hurts your options of being flexible. So if we need to do that just to make Claxton play his best, it's kind of more risk for us, less success long term. So if it seemed like the Lakers, who have LeBron, who have Luka, do need a center, because Jackson Hayes, that's not a future center right there. But if they both believe that they can unlock Claxton's full potential, a deal like that works for both sides. Definitely works for us because we get off the money, we get some expiring contracts, some draft capital, and we can draft a new center this summer and move forward and have way more financial flexibility. I think that is the best route right now, Ice. And I just feel like what we need to do, and your guy Renaud, he could be a potential option, a 7-footer. If Marks can actually draft a 7-footer, woo, that could be some breaking news, huh? Marks usually doesn't like drafting big. So if you were actually able to draft a big that's 7 foot in this draft, Ice, I think you, me, and Gary will be doing cartwheels around New York City.
You'd rather have Carmelo? Would I rather have Carmelo Anthony or Jamal Murray? Is this a real question?
Wait, are we really talking about this right now?
I can answer this if you need me to. Would you rather have Carmelo than Jamal Murray? That's your question, Lou? If you need me to answer it, I will. But I don't think that warrants me even answering that question. I'm Jamal Murray and six dudes who aren't on your roster for Carmelo Anthony is the trade that's the blueprint you want to get because 6 years later you get a nice secondary piece. There's no way this is a real argument, guys. There's no way this is real. I'll take Danny Wolf. I like Danny Wolf. You like Danny Wolf, John? I don't know what this isn't. I like
As
Danny Wolf.
long as we can get a center in this draft, I feel better about our future because with Dayron and Claxton, there's a lot of inconsistencies there, a lot of flaws. And Dayron, in limited minutes, he shows you some good things, but him too gets into foul trouble, can't dribble the ball a lot. Like you need a center that can do a bit of everything. And with both these centers, we don't have that right now. We don't have versatility. So either one has to go this summer. If you let Claxton go, you re-sign Dayron, draft the center. We like that strategy. But if you keep Claxton and you let Dayron go, draft a center. Like we need to figure that out because it's more of a problem than I think most people thought would be a problem this year.
All right. I want to transition this. This has gone astray. I want to get back on topic, John. I want to get
Mhm.
to Cam Thomas.
All right, here we go.
First, we'll get to his clips in just a minute. I want to ask you a very serious question. Is it possible that Cam Thomas has played his very last game as a Brooklyn Net?
That would, for me, just based on everything that's going on, highly unlikely. But given the way this team does things, there is maybe a 5% chance things could go awry. Because you think about it, Thomas, in some of his comments, he says that he still believes himself. He feels like he's one of the best in the league. But you have to also show it durability wise and for most of the season. Unfortunately, Thomas hasn't gone through a full season yet, but he's shown you some good things. We call him Chef Killer Cam. He's delivered some great apps and hors d'oeuvres, but now it's the entree of consistency that he needs to start delivering out of the kitchen. And if he gets a new contract this year, I would definitely say next year would be the most important year in Cam Thomas' career to show he can hold down a starter's role. Because if he can't, I think you have to look at maybe converting him to a sixth man if he can't play a whole lot of games during a season. So it'll be interesting to see how this all gets ironed out. But I would mostly expect a deal, a middle ground fair deal to get done on both sides because we need it. We need the financial flexibility with his contract and to figure out his future. And if a deal doesn't get done and he somehow takes a qualifying offer, that's worst case scenario for us right now because we lose flexibility.
Yeah, I think the Nets are going to resign him, and I think there's a strong possibility that they trade him in the offseason. I would put it at better than 50-50 he plays for the Nets again. I would say he most likely plays for the Nets again. But I think there's a real chance that he's included in a trade for a star. He's going to get a team-friendly deal. And when he gets a team-friendly deal, it makes him very tradable, right? Like, I don't know. It's going to depend on how that team values Cam Thomas. But looking around the market, what the Nets can offer him and what everyone else can offer him, the Nets are going to get him on a $20 to $22 million deal. We were talking about 22, 28. I think 22 is going to be the ceiling, and I think it's going to be more like 20 or 22. They can do that. That's what Cam Johnson makes. Like, he becomes very tradable. And they want to go star hunting. I think they have their sights set on Zion or Ice Tray or who knows. I think he's a part of that trade. John, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the unfortunate thing I think some people really like Thomas don't want to admit is that if you do resign him, there is a huge 50% chance he is likely a trade piece. And if you give him a top market value contract around 20 to 24 mil, something like that, great for us because it makes his contract that more valuable and makes him a high trade piece. And unfortunately, he is your best offensive asset right now on this team. So this organization does want to go down the star route a third time, unfortunately, Thomas' contract would have to be part of that because what other valuable assets do you have besides your draft capital? It's an unfortunate conversation, but one you're likely going to have, and who you draft as well. If we drafted Darren Peterson in 2026, who is a scoring guard who plays Cam's position, if he is way better than Thomas is, unfortunately, at that point, you have to start thinking about will you convert Thomas to a six-man role or will you trade him? So, unfortunately, there is a 50% chance he could be traded if he is signed to a very valuable contract.
I'm gonna play the clip here. You sent me the clip. You sent me two clips. I'm gonna play. I haven't heard these yet. I didn't see that you
Ooh.
sent these to me. So I'm gonna play these now. Let's see what Cam Thomas says.
And stepped into a somewhat featured role. Do you feel like you did enough to warrant being a core piece moving forward for this team?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's like every when I got major minutes, I've been I feel like one of the best guards in the league in my position. So obviously, I feel like I showed that. So I'm just nothing really to talk about with that. But I think in the future,
Oh, my bad. Let me do it again.
Take
I
two.
muted him. Great. Yeah, let me try
This team.
that again.
yeah, of course.
There we go.
I mean, it's like when I got major minutes, I've been I feel like one of the best guards in the league in my position. So obviously, I feel like I show that. So I'm just nothing really to talk about with that. But I feel like you know when I do have the minutes in the future role, then the sky's the limit for me. And we've seen that these past 2 years. So definitely something to look at for sure.
Last couple seasons,
All
you
right, and
cracked
then
the
you sent me
rotation
one more,
and
right?
Yeah.
There's one more, John?
Yeah, there's one. There should be one more there.
All right. Okay.
now just how do you reflect on what you've been able to accomplish, with this organization?
Hang on.
Now just how you've been able to accomplish, with this organization in these last 4 seasons.
Yeah, it's good. Just experiencing all the love from the fans here, um, teammates, front office, everybody. I feel like I built a lot of great relationships here, and obviously, it is a business. But at the end of the day, I would love to be back and get that straightened out, just to keep playing in front of the fans, and obviously keep building relationships that I've built here. Because I mean, I was drafted here, so you definitely have you know, a connection here. So you definitely want to be back. But at the end of the day, like I said, you just got to look into that, and then whatever happens, happens. I'm just gonna let my agents and the front office discuss that out, and it should be good. Very confident, very very happy to be back if I am back. So we'll see.
And you're at the end.
All right. First, I do want to address Lou's comment. I agree with him. Eric Slater's question is ridiculous. I like Slater, but his question, no, I don't think they should pay me as someone who has a featured role on this team. Would you agree? I like Eric Slater. He's a good dude. I like his channel. I like what he does. But that is a ridiculous, stupid question that he asked him. Like, what do you think his answer is going to be? I mean, I Lou's correct that question's ridiculous.
You know what it is? Cam Thomas has said some pretty bold statements in his life. These media people, if they could get him to say something bold, it's like, wow, I get viewership, I get attention because I asked the question. So I understand why Eric Slater asked the question. But this is what I kind of do like about Cam this year. He came in with the moxie this summer, very overconfident, saying nobody could guard me in this league. I'm the best. And he said I have nothing to prove to this team. Well, when you say stuff like that, it means you're going to back it up a really good season. For those first few games of the season, he was backing it up, and he was actually fitting Jordy's system well. He's being very mature, passing out the ball to his teammates, not just chucking up shots anymore because he's the best offensive guy on the team. He was starting to evolve his game a little bit, bring a little leadership on the court. So I like those things. And I appreciate that Thomas kind of handled the questions as best he could yesterday. And like he said, his representation is going to talk with Marks and going to hash this out. But, Thomas has said some bold things over his career. I think that's why the media gives him such a rib. To get ribs on him so much.
You want a good question to ask him? Here's a good question. Okay. Do you want to be back in Brooklyn? And if so, has there been any talks with the front office about an extension? That's a good question.
It's a great question. And this
Answer
summer,
that question.
and here's the thing. I know we have the exit interviews coming up in a few weeks when Sean Marks and Jordy get interviewed. I hope on the ask, what has your relationship with Cam Thomas been this season? Have you guys gotten developed a stronger bond? Do you have more respect for him than you did? Like, I want to find out those answers because this summer we're going to see just how much Marks values Thomas. And you and me, we'd see the possibility, high possibility, he could be a valuable trade chip because he hasn't played a full season yet. He hasn't gone through the full grind. He's showing you some bits and pieces here, but it's what he can do as a complete player besides just scoring. And in Mark's mind, he's probably going to try to use his advantages. Like, you didn't play a lot this year, Cam. We still believe in you, but this we want to give you. We're going to find out this summer just how much he values him. And if they agree to a deal, there must be some type of respect there between the two of them, at least as far as getting a contract delivered. But if he doesn't somehow take a deal, it shows Marks doesn't value him at all. So we'll find out this summer just how much Marks truly feels about Cam Thomas, and it'll give us an inclination of what his future truly is on this team.
The other good question I would have asked him after I asked him that, and obviously from that response, it seems like he would have said that, yes, he wants to be here. And I would imagine that there hasn't been any negotiations because Sean Marks doesn't like Cam Thomas. The next question would be, is there a certain number? Is there an amount that would get you to sign where you wouldn't talk to other teams?
I would probably be the highest offer you could possibly get. I think that's what,
if they offered you $30 million a year right now, would you sign it and not talk to anyone else? Like,
yeah, because my market
that keeps you here.
If my market's not that high and you're willing to give me the highest number around 30 mil, yeah, I'll take it because what else am I going to get? The Wizards only have, I think, 27 mil to offer up. We have over 50 mil to offer at cap space, so we are in control of that. The organization, yes, you're in control of Cam Thomas' situation, but if he doesn't like what you give him, he has the option of accepting a $5 million qualifying offer, betting on himself, and getting potentially higher money in 2026. That is the scenario you don't want to happen, because if that happens, you lose Spurs rights on him. So the organization, yes, you have control going to the negotiation table, but you don't want to isolate Thomas. You want to say, listen, Cam, you did well this season, but you didn't play a whole lot. We can't give you the 30 mil you thought you were going to get. That you can't do stuff like that. This is what we're going to find out if Marks can actually get a deal done with a guy off his rookie contract. If he can, great. If he can't, we're in a lot of trouble with this front office. You have to be able to get a deal done with Thomas around 20, 25 mil. If 30 mil is the highest he can get, okay, that's good. It's a valuable market contract for 3 to 4 years. But if you can't get a deal done, there's a lot of problems with this front office. Like, you should be able to get a 20 to 30, something around that done with Cam this summer.
Yeah. But this is why I don't understand why it's not. I like Eric Slater. He's a good dude. But why don't you ask good questions? Like, seriously, why don't you ask good inquisitive questions instead of like the questions that you ask? I'm being serious. Like, do you think you're like, what was his question? Do you think you've been an important part of the team? Like, what do you think he's gonna say to that question? Ask him real questions. Ask him questions that like are gonna make him answer it. Like, I'm not saying you do a hit piece on the guy, but has there been any discussions, and do you want to stay here? Since you do want to stay here, is there a number Sean Marks could offer you right now that would make you stay and not test free agency? If he gives a number and it doesn't happen, what do we know for sure? Sean Marks didn't offer him that number, right? We know that for sure, right? So, yeah. I mean, I would just ask good questions instead of questions like that.
You know, the crazy thing is Cam Thomas in his short career is one of the most polarizing players I've seen in quite a time. He's only 23. He's been in the league since what? He was around 20, something like that. Like, it's crazy the rep he gets. I mean, media, they're looking for anything they can get from him, being a bold statement that they could put on the front page, just saying, hey, Cam thinks he's as great as Kobe Bryant and Magic Johnson, stuff like that. Listen, Cam believes himself. Of course, you have to believe so, because look, the media doesn't like Cam Thomas. Obviously, they don't want to put him in any of their top categories. The organization, they haven't fully trusted Cam. Who can Cam trust? Me and myself and I. That's all he can trust right now. So he's delivered when he's been on the court. He's improved this year. I have to acknowledge that. I said last year, I know what he gives me offensively, but can he improve on the playmaking, the defense, the rebounding? For the first half of the season, the defense and rebounding was better. The second half of the playing game was better. So I acknowledge those things. Do I think he's a large part of our future right now based off what he's done? I can't give you an answer right now. I don't think so right now, because it's an incomplete for me right now, because he hasn't got through a full season. But what he has shown you is he offensively can deliver. He probably should get around a $20 million salary at least, because we have the cap space money to spend this year, and there is no big options on the free agency market. So if Sean Marks cheaps out on Cam like in an egregious manner, it's really the organization's fault at that point, because Cam has shown you offensively he shows up when he has to, and he's been willing to dish out and help his teammates out this year. So if you can't give him a top contract, you must not like the guy. You must agree with what the media says, that Cam is just overblown and he speaks a lot, but he just offensively gives you a little bit here and there. No, you have to give him what he's done. He has shown you he's worth at least $20 million at the very least.
He's worth more than that. I want to address what Lou said in the chat. He ain't giving no number. He would say, I'd leave that to my agent. I'll just hit a ball. Probably. I mean, 90% chance that's what he says. But at least I did my job. At least I asked him I'm gonna play this one more time because this question is ridiculous. Like I'm not throwing shade at him. I like Eric Slater. I think he does a good job. I like his coverage of the Nets. But this question is ridiculous. So I'm just gonna play this one more time. Hang on.
A somewhat featured role, do you feel like you did enough to warrant being a core piece moving forward for this team?
Do you think you did enough to warrant being considered a key piece for this, a core piece for this team? Okay. What's a better question, that or do you want to stay in Brooklyn? And if so, has there been any negotiations with Marks with the front office about an extension? What's a better question?
Your question, because this is all connected to the front
I'm
office.
not
They're the ones
trying to
that
throw
wield the
shade at the
money.
guy, right? But like, that's a ridiculous question. Yeah.
Yeah, and listen, even though me and Gary see him as a trade piece because he is, if you get him at a very valuable contract, of course there's that optionality, right? Either he's a cornerstone piece or he's a valuable trade asset. That's a little bit what Cam Thomas' future would be decided if he comes back to Brooklyn. But if you don't want to give him anything close to at least a fair deal, then you must really not like the kid. And at that point, he can go wherever he wants. He can take a qualifying offer and then he'll leave in a year. But we lose flexibility with that. You want to get him signed to a reasonable, fair contract that gives you flexibility with his future and allows us to move accordingly as we draft prospects who may or may not be better than Cam Thomas. That's the fair way to go about this. But if Marks can't even get him signed to a reasonable deal, I feel like it's a waste of time with him and with trying to figure out his future at that point.
The last thing I wanted to bring up, and then we'll look ahead. Teams are monitoring Trae Young as a potential trade target this summer. Young becomes eligible to sign a 4-year, $229 million extension with the Hawks, which makes it decision time for both sides. If Young doesn't sign it, it will indicate a trade could be soon be on the horizon. All right, we talked about this in private. Cam Thomas for Trae Young, is this something you would entertain? I'd say no, because I don't think Trae Young is worth $60 million a year, 55, whatever that is. Do the math on that. I say no because I don't want that contract. But what are your thoughts on possibly using Cam Thomas? And you'd have to trade picks too, right? Just Cam Thomas is not landing you Trae Young, correct? So it would be right. Cam Thomas and picks. I'm 100% out on this trade. But your thoughts?
Yeah, and the thing is, Trae Young has had a very great season. I think it's one of his best seasons of his career. And the fact, again, that the Hawks, even though they're a middle-tier team, nowhere to close to championship team, but Trae Young has been your best player again on that team. But at the end of the day, they made some interesting moves this year at the deadline. They traded away some pieces to get younger. So if you're getting younger, it's kind of like you're telling Young, listen, we value you, but if we're in this lottery and we get a high pick, there is a high chance we could trade you and not give you the extension you want. So you look at a team like Brooklyn, who were connected, I guess, to Trae Young in some conversations. But at the end of the day, the only way it would happen is if you do a Thomas for Young swap. You can't have Young and Thomas on the same team. That backcourt, would get eaten alive. to put it bluntly, it would get eaten alive. And the thing is this, Trae Young is a little older than Cam, but in many ways, Trae Young is kind of who you hope Cam Thomas would be, a clutch scorer that can score in a variety of ways, get to the free throw line in a variety of ways, and impact the team. But at the end of the day, like you said, are we going to give Trae Young a $60 million salary? We don't even have a second star on this team. That's the gamble. Like, let's say Giannis was coming here in a trade. Then getting Trae Young would probably make sense. But who would you give up to get Giannis and Young? Like, there will be a lot of questions that we don't have the answers or the full assets to. So, yeah, probably you don't do this deal. But there definitely is a high chance Trae Young could be traded somewhere this summer if the Hawks draft well and they kind of want to go the Young route. So I definitely could see Young traded maybe this summer or at the very latest next year's deadline. But he could definitely be on the move. I just don't see Young for Thomas probably happening just because you'd have to have a second star to justify making that move.
I can't. Yeah, like I understand why. First, I just think Trae Young is like a little bit overrated. I really like. I don't see him like that. Like he's a high turnover, low efficiency volume shooter who's undersized and can't defend. I'm not. I just, to me, like that alone. Would you like to sign him to this contract? Not at all.
No.
I'm not saying he obviously has value. He's a great playmaker. He's a guy that can lead the league in assists every year. Like there's definitely value to him. I'm not saying he sucks. for me, that contract makes him untouchable. What are your thoughts on just
Yeah.
forget the trade? Just would you give him that contract?
No, especially if he's your primary star, because Trae Young in his career has not gotten the chance to play with an actual superstar. So if you bring him here, you're kind of just doing what you're doing with the Hawks. Yes, he's going to be your best scorer. We're going to be a mediocre, middle-tier playing team at best, but we actually want to be a playoff team in a few years. And having Trae Young by himself, it's not a smart business move for us, especially if you have to trade Thomas to get it done. The only way you trade Thomas, if you're getting an impact superstar to come on this team. And Trae Young, as good as he is, he's more of a secondary star at this point of his career than a primary star.
Right. So if you get rid of him, you bring in what I would consider a bad contract, and you'd be setting out a good contract in Cam Thomas, right? Let's say Cam Thomas signs 2 years, 67 million, 2 years with 3 years for 67 million, but the third year is a player option. That's a very good contract, right?
Yeah.
And then you bring in this $250 million contract for Trae Young. That's a bad contract. I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's a good player. He has value. He's a borderline all-star every year. It's just too much to pay him for a guy with that kind of deficiency. So you bring in a bad contract, and now we all agree that he's not the one guy that can carry you. So you need to get another star to play with him. With what money?
Exactly. And if you're trading Thomas and a hypothetical for a Giannis, what are you giving up for Trae Young? Because we have to give up Claxton and Thomas and picks. What, they're going to give him Cam Johnson and picks? I don't think the Hawks want Cam Johnson and picks for their best offensive player on that team. So we'd have to probably give away some prospects we draft. But then at that point, you're ruining the construction of a core that hasn't even gotten started yet. So, yeah, there's a lot of problems there with going after Young by himself. If you go after a second star and you have access to get Young, that could be a different conversation. But let's not risk it until we know who we're drafting or what we got.
I also don't want to trade for Trae Young and then assume I'm going to get Giannis. That is a large assumption to assume that I'm going to get the best player of the era. It's like, I don't know that you're going to get him. That's a large assumption there. I mean, you have an interesting trade package that you can offer. You do, but you don't know what the Knicks have. The Knicks have an interesting trade offer: Cat and Bridges. I mean, what do they prefer? Do they want to retool or rebuild? If they want to rebuild, they're going to take our picks. If they want to compete, they're going to take Knicks offer. But there's 20 other teams that are going to try to trade for him too, right? So, yes, the Nets have a compelling trade package they could present for Giannis. That doesn't mean that that's the offer they're going to accept, right? Like, they can accept a different offer. You don't know what direction they want to go. So, yeah, I would not trade for Ice Trae, assuming I'm going to get Giannis. That is too large of an assumption to operate.
And out of all the stars you talked about that could be on the move, Trae would probably be in my last tier of the bracket of who we've been looking at. Like the LaMelos and Zions are way more cheaper and gettable than Trae Young would be, especially if he's been making $60 million on extension. Do you want to answer Lou's question though about the Kuminga thing that he popped up?
Where was it?
It was just on there. It was about send Claxton to the Warriors for Kuminga.
I'd rather have CT Kuminga is send Claxton. Look, yeah, 100%, 120%. I'll pay Kuminga a big contract too if I can get if I can get Claxton off this team. I'll give Kuminga his $35 million. I've just saved 25 in getting Claxton off this team, which is addition by subtraction. If Golden State wants to make that trade, Claxton for Kuminga, and you have to sign Kuminga. Done. Done. Yeah, Claxton's god awful, guys. Like, I like Claxton. Like, he loves being here. But, like, for that contract, it's one of the worst contracts in basketball. He's not good. I do this every day. It's not because I hate Nick Claxton. Like, when they signed him, I was like, good, I'm glad he's here. That's way too much money. Like, I know it's not ill will towards Claxton, but we have to. He's not a good rebounder. He can't defend fives, and he has no offensive game. Why does it make sense to pay him $25 million a year?
It doesn't. And the Kuminga thing's an interesting storyline because free agency is pretty dead right now, but Kuminga's one of the guys who will be, available on the market. And the Warriors, they made the big move for Jimmy. They're in the honeymoon phase, winning a lot. But next year, Jimmy's set to make $60 million. at age 36, and there's not a whole lot of money to give Kuminga, who probably, like Cam Thomas, thought they were going to get a over $30 million contract this year and might have to take a $20 million. Listen, if Kuminga stays with them for a $25 million, but they want to trade him, Claxton for Kuminga, I'm open to. Let's say we miss out on Ace and Cooper. We miss out on a power forward, but we get a point guard in this draft. If you get Kuminga, you have, let's say, Dylan Harper or Jeremiah Fears with Cam Thomas, Kuminga. There's the makings of something. Will Kuminga and Thomas be on our team long term? No. But do they both have very valuable contracts? Yes. You want that. That still gives us flexibility. If we have Kuminga and Thomas on this team, each making $20 million, but having market value contracts, allows us to still have a younger core, develop the team, hit the lottery, and try to figure out who's a large part of our future. I'm open to a scenario like that if we miss out on a top forward in this draft and we trade Claxton for a Kuminga. There is some optionality there, so that's definitely something I would entertain at the very least, because I've seen Kuminga get better a bit this season. I was not high in the beginning of the season, but he has shown you some things before he got hurt a few months ago. But yeah, he would be somebody we should think about if the conversation opens there for sure.
I agree with Lou. Claxton's got to be an upgrade over Looney. I agree, but the question is Claxton better than Looney? The question is, does it make sense to give us that kind of money to Claxton? Does he make us that much better? Or can that money be spent better elsewhere? Yes, I agree. He's better than Looney, right? Just like he's better than Jackson Hayes in LA. He is better than Jackson Hayes, but he has to be so much better than Jackson Hayes if I'm going to give him $25 million a year. He can't just be a slight upgrade. I give him $25 million. That's a Sean Marks move. Okay, that's not smart. Like, so the question is like, does he add $25 million worth of value to what I'm getting from Jackson Hayes? If the answer is no, I'm not making the trade. If the answer is yes, then I'm making the trade. Like, that's why the only team I can see him going to is the Lakers. But not if Jackson Hayes continues to play well. Then it's like, no, I get it. Claxton's better, but I'm not taking, the $25 million contract. I understand you're sending out Rui Hachimura in a hypothetical deal, almost certainly, right? So that's about what is it? Rui makes about $17 million.
Yeah, you know what the interesting thing is?
$8 million of salary by bringing in Claxton.
You know what the interesting thing is, though? Hayes is a free agent this summer. Rui and Vincent are free agents next year. LeBron, he might sign off for maybe one more deal, 1 more year, something like that. They want to build around Luka. We got that. You've seen in the last 4 games, Luka offensively, great. Defensively, a nightmare. So if you bring Claxton on, it's like you're trying to maximize whatever's left of LeBron's window, but you're preparing for Luka's window. Luka needs defensive players. The gamble on the Lakers' part would be, listen, if Claxton has 2 superstars with him, you'll get the numbers you got 2 or 3 years ago. He was just lobbing dunks and playing defense. If that's the gamble they think they should take it, because Luka defense, like you said, Gary, is horrible. He needs defensive pieces, and you get rid of Vincent and Rui, one of them who are expiring salary. They're not long-term parts of the future. So it does make sense. It's just, will Marks be willing to be flexible and take on what we have to take on to get the deal done? He should. It should not be, I want 3 first-round picks to give you guys Claxton. No, take 1 pick and some seconds and expiring salary, and let's move on. Let's move on. Just make it simple this summer. If the out is there,
he makes sense to the Lakers. I've always said he makes sense to the Lakers. The only drawback, and the Lakers checked in about him. So the Lakers have interest in him. We know that from the deadline. The Lakers checked in on him, and Marks didn't want to trade him because Marks has got awful. So this probably is all for nothing, right? Because Marks likes Claxton, and if he likes you, then you get whatever you want. Like, that's how it works with Sean Marks, right? Like, it's a treehouse, and he's the pretty girl, and he's like, this is what I want. And Sean Marks is a simp that bends over for him. Like, okay.
Whoa, pause.
Okay, Laura Eot 97. Is he better than Hartenstein? Are we talking about Claxton? No, Claxton's not better than Hartenstein.
Did you see what Hartenstein did with the Knicks last year? He literally did a bunny hook shot against 76ers. He did the same shot for like 4 games, and he was doing more offensively than Claxton has done offensively in the playoffs. Hartenstein actually has a more developed game than Claxton, and he gives a lot more to a team right now. Look what he's done with OKC right now. Since he's come back, they've been at the top of the kingdom right now in the NBA world. Like, Claxton has shown you he can only be at his best if you have 2 superstars. I said this when we went around, Barry. We have a new CBA system. If we get 2 superstars just to maximize a guy making $25 million, that's bad business for the Brooklyn Nets. Why are we trying to make Claxton happy by ruining our cap space flexibility just to get 2 superstars who may or may not help us win a team because we want to maximize Claxton. That's horrible strategy. On our part, what we should do, like we just talked about, trade him to the Lakers, who do need a center, who have 2 stars right now, and let him cook with them while we get the cap space flexibility and can reset our center position by drafting a center in this draft. It's really an easy solution this summer. It's just we need the GM to pull it off for once.
All right, Mark says, Lakers don't get second rounders. Lakers don't got second rounders to deal. I think Lakers got a feeling someone else sent them a feeler. Wait, hang on. Lakers don't got second rounders to deal. I think Lakers got a feeling someone else sent them a feeler of my client will want to go there. You shouldn't have given up that much for Williams. I don't think they gave up that much for Williams.
The deal got null and voided, though, so they still have the assets,
Yeah.
Mark. And like I said, they have a 2031 first. It may not be valuable to us, but it's still a pick. It's a pick that we could put a part of a deal to get a star in the future. Take the out. Like, whatever draft capital they want to give us, I'll take it. Whatever expiring contract they want to give us Claxton, I'll take it. We win that deal just by getting off his contract. Like, it's a win-win. We're talking about cap space flexibility. That's what you need when you're trying to build a team from scratch and actually build a product that actually will attract a superstar. When we have Claxton and Johnson's money on the books, do stars want to really come here feeding 2 guys who are making $40 million who aren't high-end, impactful players? No. That's why we got to be smart this summer and get off at least one of these contracts this summer. Probably Johnson is more movable than Claxton. If that's our out, take it.
If you can get off of both of them, great. But yeah, Johnson's going to be more movable. Yeah. Will 2 superstars make Claxton be able to actually defend the center? I think not. No, of course not, right? But like you guys, offensively with 2 superstars, just like on the Nets, the holes and the ugliness of his offensive game is going to be hidden more. You're not going to see his blemishes offensively. Defensively, we know what he is. He can block some shots, and he can defend on the wing. And he can't guard centers. He's going to get big boyed and bullied by every center, every big center in the league. Like, so yes, I mean, no. Well, is it good? No, it's not going to be able to make him guard a center, obviously. But what he does offer you is more usable for a team like the Lakers, where you can hide his offensive blemishes, and where you need him to defend wings, right? Because like, if you could put him on a 3, then you don't have to put Luka or Bron on a 3. Like
Exactly.
He helps you, right? Whereas with the Nets, it's just like he doesn't really. His blemishes are on disguise offensively because you don't have enough good offensive players. Where you pass him the ball and he dribbles into the double team. It's like he dribbles into the help. It's like he's just so offensively unaware. He has no moves. It's all on display. Where when we was playing with Harden and Kyrie and KD, it was just okay. Go lob. Right? You didn't see how ugly his offensive game was. You see it now. So when you went to the Lakers with Luka, you would just see the lob. Like he wouldn't even think about dribbling the ball into the help because he would either dunk it or kick it back out. Right? Like he's not going to start dribbling the ball with Luka on his team. Like that would end immediately.
And with the attention Luka and LeBron get, nobody's going to be as focused on Claxton. So that's why he could slide to the lob position and dunk a lot of balls. Nobody's looking at him. And I know somebody just said that they're going after Walker Kessler. Listen, they gave up 1 first-round draft pick to get Luka, and Danny Ainge, who was a part of that 3-team deal, who didn't know he was going to be a part of one of the craziest nuclear trades of all time. You really think he's going to give Walker Kessler to the Lakers for a bottle of scotch and a pick? He's going to want everything under the table. Whereas with Claxton, we take what we can get at this point. Claxton is way more gettable this summer than Walker Kessler would be. The Lakers have to give up the house and the mansion to get Walker Kessler from Danny Ainge, the draft merchant of Venice. We have a way better shot. So hopefully Sean Marks wakes up and takes the out if the Lakers really are searching for a center this summer, because it really is our only out with Claxton at this point.
Claxton will be guarding the 2 while Luka guarding the 5. The Lakers have this one guy who's 6'9", 270 pounds. His name's LeBron James. I don't know if you've heard of him. You ever heard of him, Lou? Would Luka be on the 5? I don't even understand that comment. Like LeBron James is the size of a center. He's 6'9", 275. That's probably who I would put on the 5, not Luka. I wouldn't put Gabe Vincent on the center either. So it's a strange question from Lou. Am I missing? Why would you put Luka on the 5?
I don't understand that either. I think
don't
he's being
understand-
sarcastic. I
I
think
don't
Lou's being
understand- I don't
sarcastic.
understand the question, Lou. I don't. No, you're not
I
going to
think
put
he's
Luka
being-
on a 5. No, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm also not putting Dalton Connect on the 5. I just all right. All right. We're gonna wrap. You ready to wrap, John? You got any last
Yeah,
questions,
this
thoughts,
was a good discussion. We got a lot of things. I came in with the hoodie and the shades because I wanted to sell how bad it was we won yesterday. But still, listen, the season's almost over. I'm kind of just living with the results at this point. We win, we lose, we win. As long as we're out of the plane, Operation Damage Control is a success right now. But May 12th, which is a big, a big day you should circle on your calendar, we'll definitely be doing a live that day when we find out where we're drafting in this lottery, and we'll find out this summer. Did Sean Marks and Joe Desai do enough to maximize that draft pick? We'll find out on May 12th, everybody, so stay tuned.
All right, y'all. I appreciate everyone dropping by. It's March 17th, 2025, from Texas to the world. Thank you, and God bless. Oh, when's the next game? We don't play today.
We play tomorrow against Boston, so Wednesday. I think Wednesday we'll recap.
All right, so we're going to skip tomorrow, no show tomorrow, or you want to do a show tomorrow?
No, Wednesday. We'll do a show Wednesday.
We should do a show Wednesday. All right, guys. All right, I don't want to get into. I want to get into this with Lou, but if I do, I'm never going to end. Lou, save this for next time. We'll be back on Wednesday, unless some news breaks. Then we'll be back tomorrow. But
right.
March 17th, 2025, from Texas to the world. Thank you, and God bless.
Peace.